This week in Louisiana agriculture,
the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has opened the Morganza Spillway. How will it affect you? I'll have the latest coming up.
The Mississippi flood disaster hit home for farmers in Lake Providence. I'm Kristen Oakes, and I'll have that story coming up.
Flood is destroying half of his crop and drought the other. I'm Avery Davidson with that story ahead.
The Mississippi River is now cresting in Baton Rouge at 45 feet. That's nearly 3 feet lower than the National Weather Service's original crest projection. This is the reason the actual crest is lower. Last Saturday, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers opened the Morganza Spillway structure for the first time in 38 years. That will likely flood more than 12,000 acres of farmland in that area. Hello everybody, I'm Michael Dana. Thanks so much for joining us on this special edition of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture as we continue our coverage of the flood of 2011. We are here at the port of Greater Baton Rouge along the banks of the swollen Mississippi River. The latest development this week, the economic impact the flooding and potential flooding is having on Louisiana agriculture. In a report released late last week, LSU Ag Center economist Dr. Kurt Guidry said more than 300,000 acres of farmland here in the state could be impacted by flooding. That impact could cost Louisiana farmers more than $200 million in lost farm revenues. LSU Ag Center climatologist Jay Grimes says the Mississippi River will remain at about 45 feet here at Baton Rouge for weeks. North of here, at least 11 bays of the Morganza Spillway structure are open, dumping water from the Mississippi River into the Atchafalaya Basin. That water is moving at more than 1.5 million cubic feet per second at Red River Landing, and that triggered the opening of the Morganza Spillway. As This Week in Louisiana Agriculture's A.J. Sabine shows us, the gradual opening of the spillway could prevent nearly 20 feet of water from topping levees here in Baton Rouge and in New Orleans.
At exactly 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers made history by opening the 60-year-old Morganza Spillway. It's been nearly 40 years since the flood control structure has been opened, sending more than 10,000 cubic feet of water per second into the floodway.
This is a historic day.
Earlier, in a press conference, New Orleans District Corps Commander Colonel Ed Fleming says the slow opening of the Morganza Spillway will relieve some of the pressure on the already swollen Mississippi River.
Keeping in mind the design of the levee system south of here, downstream from here, is 1.5. We anticipate that we will take approximately 125,000 cubic feet per second off the river at its crest.
The Corps of Engineers opened only one gate of the 125-bay spillway to give people who live in the Atchafalaya Basin more time to escape nearly 25 feet of anticipated flooding. Since the initial opening, the Corps has opened 15 additional bays of the spillway. Saving lives has been the deciding factor on whether to open the Morganza Spillway, says President of the Mississippi River Commission, Major General Michael Walsh.
Protecting lives is the number one thing that we're looking for as we operate the Mississippi River and tributaries project. And this project, this system is really designed back in the 1930s on how to protect lives, and that's exactly what we're doing as we operate the different systems on the Mississippi River.
Walsh says the spillway here at Morganza will be open bay by bay as the level of the river rises, or until the crest arrives here on May 22nd.
Thousands of gallons of water fill this pasture as hay bales float south and freshwater fish fight against the current. 3rd District Congressman Jeff Landry has urged a natural disaster declaration by the USDA for farmers flushed out by floodwater.
This is certainly not a man-made disaster. It's a natural disaster. And that, the flooding, the crop insurance program is made for things just such as this. And I'm sure there will be some talk over in Washington once this calamity has passed as to how best to handle and help those farmers, not only in Louisiana, but all up and down the Mississippi, Ohio, and Missouri rivers.
As this water inundates the floodway, backwater flooding of cash crops in St. Landry Parish troubled longtime soybean farmer Carlos Parlazola.
We have some soybeans that will go underwater, some low-lying areas that will flood. Potentially, we could have up to 20,000 acres of cropland that will flood over west of the spillway system.
Since the opening of the Morganza Spillway, officials with the USDA have guaranteed that farmers who've lost crops or have been prevented from planting because of flooding will be eligible for crop insurance payments in accordance with their crop insurance policies. For now, all these farmers can do is wait for these waters to recede. In Morganza, I'm A.J. Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Now, at capacity, the Morganza Spillway can divert about 600,000 cubic feet of water per second. The opening of the Morganza Spillway marks the first time the Corps has opened all 3 floodways that were built after the Great Flood of 1927. Those structures, of course, are the Bonacary Spillway, the Morganza Spillway, and the Birds Point Floodway in Missouri. We'll learn more about how farmers who grow crops in the Morganza Spillway are dealing with the flood a little later on in the program.